Hello, everybody, and welcome to Gene's Reviews. Reviews from a regular dude, where I do trailer reactions, I react to YouTube videos, I review YouTube channels. Occasionally, I'll review a movie, but really, I just do whatever the hell I want. Hello, everybody. How are you all doing today? Who out there has ever wanted to win the lottery? I know I have. I've daydreamed about it a lot. But you hear about these people that they say it's a curse. The worst thing that ever happened to me. Well, here today is some of the dumbest lottery winners of all time. So let's check this out.
Spend it on? What was the first thing that you sort of went out and spent the money on?
Purchased my house.
10 years ago, I won £9.7 million on the national lottery. And I've hit the headlines ever since.
Everybody has dreamed of winning the lottery at one point in their lives, and we've all imagined all the things that we could do with all of that money. Well, some people have actually won the lottery, and what they did with their winnings was not only unwise, but could be seen as downright dumb. These people either spent their lucky winnings on lavish items, gave away more than they should have, or simply just lost it all on
I just can't see myself doing that.
Join us as we have a look at 10 of the dumbest lottery winners of all time. Denise Rossi. There's some people who are just unhappy in their marriages, and a divorce is not unexpected when it comes, but not in the case of Denise Rossi. Denise made the abrupt decision to divorce her husband purely out of greed, and things didn't pan out the way that she had hoped. She was one of those people who had blind faith in a lottery ticket and was a regular player of the California Super Lotto for years, hoping to hit the jackpot. And for some twist of fate, she finally did. Denise won the $1.3 million prize at the Super Lotto, and she didn't go home to share her life-changing win with her husband. Instead, she forgot the "till death do us part" of her wedding vows and then filed for divorce from her husband just 11 days after winning the lottery. She had hit her new millionaire status from her husband, and even though he was hurt and confused as to why his wife was suddenly leaving him, Thomas signed the papers to give his wife what she wanted. Denise then went on to live a good life, enjoying her millionaire status, away from her now ex-husband, and it wasn't until 2 years later when a letter from the Lottery Commission meant for her arrived at her old address where her ex-husband still lived. The letter mentioned her lottery win, which just so happened to be 11 days before his loving wife filed for a divorce. A quick search with California Super Lotto database confirmed that his ex-wife had indeed won $1.3 million and had hidden it from him. Thomas immediately went to court suing his ex-wife for fraud and malicious intent. Denise claimed that she didn't know that she had to disclose her winnings to anyone, which included her husband. But the California state asset law states that she was legally obligated to disclose the winnings as she had obtained them while still married to him. Denise was found guilty of asset fraud, and as such, her winnings were awarded to her husband, and every single penny of that $1.3 million went to him.
Wow.
Sadly for her, she had already spent a sizable sum of the winnings and was now in considerable debt. So yes, Denise let the greed get the best of her, and instead of sharing her money with her husband, she now has to live in extreme debt.
So because of the greed, she ended up with zip.
Lee Ryan had a rough life and was skimming through one unfortunate turn after another. But his luck would soon turn in 1995. He had no apartment and was living with his girlfriend and 3 children in a public housing unit in Braunston, England. After spending what was his last pound on a lottery ticket, he became the lucky winner of the £6.5 million jackpot, but unlike other winners on the list, his road to living large began on a rough note. While waiting for his lottery check to clear, Ryan was caught stealing a car and ended up serving an 18-month jail sentence.
Why would you do that?
Just 6 months after winning the lottery. Nicknamed the Lotto Lag, Ryan set the record as the first British lottery millionaire to end up in jail, of which he served 9 months of his 18-month sentence. But as soon as he got out of jail and collected the lump sum of his winnings, he began living as lavishly as possible. He got married to his longtime girlfriend in a very opulent wedding, and proceeded to spend over £1 million on a lakeside mansion.
See, I
He
wouldn't
then
do
bought
that.
himself a fleet of cars, which included a Porsche, a Bentley, a
Just buy
BMW,
a
and a Ferrari.
fairly decent
and
house,
he had
you
each
know?
car fitted with custom license plates that said Lee 1, Lee 2, Lee 3, and Lee 4.
4 cars.
He went on
Why?
to buy himself a 125,000-pound private plane, 2
No.
Ducati Superbikes,
No.
and a 235,000-pound Jet Ranger
Hell no.
helicopter. He continued to spend huge sums on jewelry and women, which eventually led him to divorcing his wife in 2003. It appeared that he was not a very smart businessman either, as he blew over £2 million on a number of failed businesses and investments, none of which would yield any substantial profit. Ryan then moved in with his new girlfriend, after which they relocated to her home country, where she spent lavishly on her relatives and also blew another £2 million in a few months of just living there. It would not be long afterwards
She was
that
just
he
a
was
gold
back
digger
living
for
in a
sure.
rented flat in South London, along with a bunch of homeless people. In a later interview, he would reveal how he had prayed to God to make him a millionaire during his first stint in jail in 1986. According to him, his cellmate had warned him to be careful what he wished for, and in his own words, he said the money was a curse. Ryan was right back where he had begun,
No, it's just you're
only this time
ignorant.
he was completely penniless and alone. Michael Carroll. There are a few people as lucky as Michael Carroll.
Okay, if I won, like right now, I think it's up to 160 million or something like that. You're going to end up with about half of that. So you end up with 80 million. I would split it in half with my sister, for sure. 40 million each. I'd probably keep $1 million out for the first year to get surgery done on my back, get a house, things like that. Just, little things. Get everything paid off, stuff like that. I would take the rest of it and put it just into a bank account, and I would live off the interest on that for the rest of the year. You're still going to have a budget, but it's a really nice budget,
In that he won the lottery of a
And
lifetime.
I'd travel a lot.
But then again, there are a few people as dumb as he is in how he went about spending his earnings. Carroll was just 19 years old with a history of mischief, petty crimes, and a record that no 19-year-old should have. He was quite literally wearing an ankle bracelet
See,
and
that's
was
dumb.
maintaining his job as a garbage collector. At that point in his life, Carroll didn't even have a bank account and was living from paycheck to paycheck. But the universe seemed to be in his favor when the young lad won £10 million in the UK National Lottery. And while most people would hope that this would help to curb the need to steal and be a nuisance, for him it only amplified it. Carroll gained celebrity status overnight and became an online sensation. Of course, he bought a larger-than-life mansion, was known for throwing extravagant parties with hundreds of people that he barely knew, and was always spotted with a different gold chain at each party. He also held demolition derbies in his backyard where he would launch scraps at his neighbors' windows, resulting in multiple visits from the police. Sadly, but also not shocking, he burnt through every cent of his £10 million winnings to the point where he eventually had to sell the mansion along with all his jewelry. He ended up homeless and living in the woods. As
Man,
luck would have it, he did manage to get a job at a cookie factory making $300 a week, which is a far fall from grace for a guy who was worth millions just a few years before. Thankfully, there's a silver
you get
lining
hundreds
to
of
it,
thousands of
as Carroll
dollars a
was
year
finally able to kick
just
his
in
addictions
interest. You can't
and
live
has
on
been
that.
sober ever since.
Really good?
Americo
I mean,
Lopez.
shit.
Being part of a group means that you have to share whatever you earn together with the rest of them, but
Yeah.
Americo Lopez didn't want to do that. Lopez was a construction worker living in New Jersey and was part of a group of fellow workers buying lottery tickets. The group had begun a workplace lottery pool where they would then put up money to buy the tickets and entrust Lopez to buy and scratch the ticket on behalf
Oh,
of the
that's
group.
that's
Fortunately,
scummy.
Lopez realized one of the tickets had won the Mega Million lottery in November of 2009, but decided not to let his colleagues in on what would have been a group win.
That's
Instead,
bad.
sharing the good news with the lottery pool group, Lopez decided that he would collect the entire winnings himself and hashed out a plan on how to quit his job. Lopez told his boss that he would need to take time off for an imaginary foot surgery, which his boss and colleagues didn't question, and then he was given the time off.
What
he
a
would then proceed
snake.
to collect the $24 million lottery win after taxes amounted to a little over $17 million. After collecting his winnings, he then told his boss he would not be returning to work after the imaginary surgery, and he even took it further by trying to hide his money and filed for unemployment benefits to keep up appearances that he was a normal out-of-work American. Lopez then began spending his winnings as lavishly as he could by putting down a $400,000 mortgage payment on his house. Next up, he continued buying a new $35,000 Chevrolet Colorado truck and then took several trips to Portugal, his native country. He gave away almost $250,000 worth of gifts and cash to family members and friends, and was still very meticulous, enough to make an early annual payment on his income taxes. No one was aware that he had taken home over $17 million in lottery winnings. He then proceeded to buy a new $1.5 million mansion in New Jersey.
That I wouldn't do.
A large 5,000 square foot estate with 4 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, and a huge driveway, which he filled with several luxury cars. But somehow his ego would get the best of him, and he told a former co-worker that he had actually won the lottery barely a week after he quit his job. Suspicious of his apparent winnings, his colleagues made a quick internet search which would reveal that he had won the lottery while he was still part of the workplace lottery pool, using their money to purchase the winning ticket.
That's the dumb
His
part for
co-workers
him.
took him to court, suing him for a part of the winnings that they were entitled to, and a jury would unanimously order him to share the winnings with his colleagues as they were rightly entitled to them. He was ordered to pay $4 million to each member as part of the original $24 million price. He ended up with a lot less money than he planned, which would have been better if he had simply shared the money in the first place. Elysia
That's
Battle.
what you get. I don't feel a bit sorry for him.
Elysia Battle was a well-known nuisance to the law, having been arrested for credit card fraud, damaging vehicles, and assault. She was practically broke as she had multiple minimum wage jobs, which she couldn't keep for any longer than a few months. But her luck seemed to turn around when in 2003, she would win the $162 million on the Mega Million ticket, or so she had everybody believe. After that year's winning numbers were announced, she realized that she had purchased a losing ticket, but hatched a plan to see if anyone would actually come forward to claim the winnings. After a few days and with no one claiming the prize, she then went public stating that she was in fact the winner, but had somehow lost her ticket. Out of sympathy, the general public tried to help her to find the lost ticket, and she even went as far as filing a police report for it. Meanwhile, the actual winner of the lottery had their ticket with them and was simply taking financial advice before coming forward.
Smart!
Rebecca
Yes!
Jemison, a hospital worker, was simply delighted when she presented her lottery tickets to the Ohio lottery officials, and they proclaimed her the true winner on live television. She revealed that she was privately planning on how to wisely spend her winnings, but was shocked to see another woman claim that she was the winner. Any normal person would take this loss and keep low profile, but not Elysia. She proceeded to file another police report trying to prevent Jemison from collecting her win, stating that the nurse had found the lost ticket and was claiming it as her own.
That's so
An
rotten.
investigation into the matter would
So
reveal that
rotten.
Jemison was the actual owner of the ticket, as she was able to provide the purchasing receipt from the convenience store where the ticket was sold. Elysia then found herself again on the wrong side of the law and was charged with submitting false police reports and sentenced to jail. Christina Goodnow.
She
Now, here's
deserves
a
it
free
too.
piece
I
of
don't feel sorry
advice.
for her
If
either.
you're going to purchase lottery tickets, you probably shouldn't do it with someone else's money. And you definitely shouldn't do it with a stolen credit card that belongs to a deceased person, which is actually what Christina Goodnow did when she won the lottery in 2005. She was the fortunate winner of the Oregon $1 million lottery prize, but the thing is, she bought the scratch off with her boyfriend's late mother's credit card, which is definitely illegal. Being ignorant of the crime that she just committed, she then went on to claim the prize and was featured on live television on several occasions. And of course, she also went on a lavish spending spree, buying a new car, upgrading her house, and treating herself to new clothing and jewelry.
See,
But while she was
they're all doing
lavishly
really dumb
spending the
shit.
winnings of a ticket that she had obtained illegally, the feds had launched an investigation into the circumstances in which she bought the ticket. This is standard practice, as the Lottery Commission intends to ensure that every winner who gets the lottery does so by the book, and it was not long after when the feds discovered that the credit card with which she had bought the lottery ticket not only didn't belong to her, but belonged to someone who was no longer alive. But that wasn't all that they found out about Christina, as it turned out that she had used her winnings to upscale her criminal antiques and was charged with multiple offenses. Unfortunately for her, she was charged with forgery, computer fraud, theft, violation of parole, identity theft, and a list of other charges. But luckily for her, she was only sentenced to mandatory probation, but was forced to forfeit her lottery winnings to the Medford Police Department. It's safe to say that she actually paid for her crimes. Andrew Jack Whitaker. Unlike most people on this list, Andrew Jack Whitaker was already a wealthy man when he won the largest jackpot
this one's actually
ever
sad.
awarded to a single Powerball winner in 2002. Jack won the $314 million lottery ticket and chose to take home a lump sum, which
And he was
after
already a
taxes,
millionaire.
amounted to a little over $113. Jack was already significantly
$113
wealthy
million,
after working his way
not-
up the poverty line and becoming the owner of one of West Virginia's biggest contracting companies. At the time of his winnings, he was already making over $15 million a year in contracts.
Yeah, see,
But
he's
despite
already a
being
millionaire.
smart businessman, it appeared the lottery curse took its effect on Jack and changed him a lot more than even his personal wealth ever did. Unlike most people on this list, Jack Whitaker was generous with his winnings, setting up charitable funds, giving to the poor, and donating millions to build churches in West Virginia. He was even remarkably generous to the lady who sold him the winning ticket, as he gave her a new car, bought her a huge house, and
I
even
would do
gave her
that.
over
I would do that.
$200,000 in cash. But despite his generosity, the lottery curse hit him, and Jack Whitaker soon found himself in over his head. With him appearing on national television and his identity widely known, he soon found himself with thousands of people asking him for money and favors.
Yeah, you
many
need to
of which
stay
were
under the
complete
radar,
strangers.
dude.
He
Under
also
the
had
radar.
a nasty habit of leaving large wads of cash in his car, and this was public knowledge. On one occasion, he was visiting a strip club,
You don't
and
buy a
someone
big
broke
mansion,
into
you
his
just buy
car
a
and stole
decent
over
house.
$1 million worth of cash. On another occasion, another unsuspecting stranger stole $100,000 worth of cash from another one of his cars. Jack's company also took a hit, as it was hit with several frivolous lawsuits from people who simply wanted to get access to his money.
Of course.
And while most of the lawsuits would be dismissed, they would cost him millions of dollars in legal fees. The once calm and collected Jack Whitaker then began drinking under the pressure of his new status, and he would reportedly get handsy with several women, offering them cash to sleep with him or to keep quiet when they refused.
So
He
sad.
would visit strip clubs and go on drinking binges that would last for days at a time. His 40-year marriage to his wife became strained, and they were all but estranged, but that wasn't the worst thing to happen to Jack. Jack's granddaughter Brandy was the apple of his eye, and he enjoyed spoiling her with gifts, huge allowances, and even bought her 4 different vehicles. But this attracted a bad crowd for the young teenager, and she would be introduced to drugs, which eventually led to an overdose just a few years later. Jack's daughter, who was Brandy's mother, was devastated by the death of her young daughter and was also found dead not long after her daughter had passed. Jack had somehow lost most of the people that he loved, as well as the money that he had won, and in his own words he said, "I wish I'd torn that ticket up."
He was too
William
nice
Post
with it.
III.
Too generous.
William Post was one of those few people who
Seen
believed
this
in
one,
luck,
too.
and not only did he use the last $3 in his bank account to purchase a lottery ticket, but he also pawned a few possessions for $40 and spent the entire amount on tickets. Somehow his gamble would pay off, and he ended up winning a whopping $16.2 million jackpot from the Pennsylvania lottery. Post, who had been homeless for much of his life, then decided to use his winnings to drastically upgrade himself. He ran through over $400,000 of his annual payments in just 2 weeks, and a little over a year after his winning, he was nearly $500,000 in debt. In addition, his girlfriend sued him, claiming that they had agreed to split the money if he won. She won the lawsuit, and the court awarded her half of his winnings, but he couldn't pay, and as such, his lottery payouts were frozen. Post had to declare bankruptcy and only managed to keep about $2.5 million of his actual winnings, which of course he ran through in just a few months. He also
Wow.
got into trouble with the law and was arrested for assault after firing a warning shot at a stranger who was pestering him for money. But that wasn't the worst of his troubles. His brother hired paid assassins to kill him and his wife so that he would inherit whatever was left of his lottery winnings. At this point, Post had already married and divorced 5 wives and was on wife number 6.
Holy crap,
In an interview,
man.
he would say that everybody dreams of winning money, but nobody realizes the nightmares that come out of the woodwork or the problems. 13 years
Not for
after
everyone,
winning that
though.
jackpot,
Not if you think
Post
about
was
it a
living
little
off
bit.
of welfare and died broke and alone. Jose Antonio Cuetac. Playing the lottery in general doesn't really make much sense because the chances of winning are literally 1 in 10 million.
Yeah.
But then again, it makes absolutely no sense if you're an illegal immigrant with no documentation.
But your chances
living
are
in the
nothing
United
if you don't
States
play,
Simply because
so.
you can't legally claim the money if you win it. This was the case of Jose Antonio, a Guatemalan native who entered the United States illegally and was living without any documents. Like a bad twist of fate, he won $750,000 in the Georgia lottery. But because he knew that he was unable to legally claim the winnings, he would ask his longtime boss, Eric Cervantes, whom he trusted to claim the money for him.
Yeah.
Cervantes agreed, but it was not a big surprise when he refused to give Antonio the money after claiming it.
See, I wouldn't
This
do
was where
that.
things began to get complicated.
If I said that
and
I would do it, I
wildly
would do it.
interesting. People advised Jose
I'd do it hoping that
to
he
let
gave
go
me
of the
some of
money,
it, but I
as
would
he
not
was
do
an
that.
illegal immigrant, and taking the case to court
What
would
a
do
piece of
more
shit.
harm than good. But Jose was a proud man, believing that it was his right to get the money that he had won fair and square. He decided to sue his boss, taking him to court for refusing to remit
I don't
his
think
winnings
he'll win.
back to him. And while he did win the court case, as video footage showed him purchasing the ticket from the convenience store, it was not the win that he expected. His illegal status was revealed, and he was charged with forgery, but that wasn't all. Apparently, Jose had gotten angry and threatened his boss and his family, stating that he would kill them. This got another charge of terroristic threatening against him, adding to his long list of charges. Fortunately, he would be awarded his winnings, which after taxes and deducting the cost of his court fees, would leave him with just $250,000.
Live real
But
good
despite
on
all
that
of
in
that, he was still deported back
Mexico,
to
Guatemala.
and has never been heard from since.
He's probably
Callie
living high on the hog
Rogers.
there.
Not a lot of people can say that
Good.
they won the lottery at the age of 16, but Callie Rogers did and remains the youngest ever lottery winner in Britain, a title that she wished she had never received. A young teenager living in a foster home, she was just 16 years old and working as a checkout girl, making £3.6 an hour. She would occasionally buy lottery tickets with spare change, not really thinking much of it, until her luck turned one faithful day. The 16-year-old won the lotto jackpot of £1.9 million in 2003, and suddenly her life changed forever. She assured friends and the public that she would make wise financial decisions and set herself up with a business, but apparently those were all big words, and
1.9
she did
million's
the exact opposite.
not enough to go
She quit her
crazy
job
like that.
and almost immediately began spending lavishly. One of her very first
Especially at
purchases was
16 years
coughing up
old.
£11,000 for 2 boob jobs,
Dumb.
which she had done on separate occasions. She also went on to blow over £300,000 on expensive designer clothing, lavish makeup, and an increasing number of tattoos, and then spent over £100,000 on top-of-the-line expensive sports cars, after which she spent twice that amount on drugs.
Now
She
she's
then
down
went
to
on
pretty much
spend
nothing.
more money on holiday locations across the world, which included Mexico, Euro Disney, and Dubai, and somehow she believed that she had an unlimited supply of money and went on to give former boyfriends, family, and friends over £400,000 worth of gifts and unreturned loans. Less than 3 years after her lottery win, she had blown through her entire winnings and was now living on benefits with her 2 children. Sadly, the only thing she had to show for her lottery winnings was a small house she had bought for herself and another for her mom. Rogers is now an advocate for raising minimum age requirements for purchasing lottery tickets to 18, stating that she was too young to handle that kind of money and attention and wouldn't wish that on anyone
Too
at 16
young and
years
dumb.
old. But what do you think? Do you think you'd have done things differently if you'd won the lottery?
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments below.
Yep, I definitely would have done things differently. If that was to happen to me, like I said, for one thing, I wouldn't buy any mansion. I wouldn't buy a Ferrari or a Maserati or any of that crap. I just get me a decent car, brand new car that runs good. Buy me a house. 1 bedroom's good enough for me. I don't care. Yeah, stay under the radar, because you would have people coming out of the woodwork asking you for money. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. That's a pretty interesting video. Now, how about a joke? Why do cows have hooves other than feet? Because they lactose. That joke is utterly useless. Thank you, everybody. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hashtag Mean Gene, all that fun stuff. And if you like this video, tell all your friends, leave a comment down below. And if you didn't like it, then just shut up. And I will see you next time.